So, wow, I have so many questions rolling in my head, and I kind of want to circle back to one of the things you talked about, which I haven't heard someone say, but makes total sense to me. And that you said it, people often use the stuff to set up boundaries and to protect themselves from others or to isolate themselves. And I've seen that in my own family with certain members, older members of my family who, like it's an excuse to not invite people over. There's all kinds of things happening there. So I would love to explore that more. And like, I guess, also before we get into that, sorry, I should backtrack. One of the things we talk about feelings and about thoughts that pop in our heads is we try to say, there are no good feelings or bad feelings. There's just feelings. And that when you pay attention to those feelings, that's data. It's telling you something so that you can then make decisions and take action. So I don't want to look at this as like good or bad, like clutter's good, bad. These boundaries are good or bad. I'm kind of want to think about this in terms of this is data.
Yeah,
right?
I never put a negative spin on clutter. If anything, I take clutter and say, imagine it's good. Imagine it's doing something positive for you, because the natural societal take is that it's bad and you should be ashamed if you have it and hide it. But the truth is that sometimes it does for us what we don't feel comfortable doing for ourselves. I had a client who had clutter in his car, and he told me, he's like, honestly, I realized through our work together that I have it and I like it because if my car is cluttered, I can't give anyone a ride home. And my home life is so busy and full with my kids and my family, and my work life is so busy. My drive home is the only quiet time I have. I don't want to share that with someone, and I feel like I need a good excuse. And the minute we can use the clutter as just like what you're saying is data, because it's not good or bad. It's just, it's actually both, right? It's all the things. It depends on what you want, what it is for you, but it's doing something for you. And the minute that he tracked that, because here's the fascinating thing. He's driving this car full of clutter, feeling miserable because he's in clutter, not realizing that the clutter is doing something positive. And the minute that he realizes it's doing something positive, he can turn that into a boundary. He can turn that into a, hey, I don't do carpooling. This is my only alone time. And he now has words for the feeling that he'd been stuffing. The clutter goes away. He doesn't need it anymore. And that's that. It's just, we don't have to torture ourselves in order to set our boundaries. Like, what if it's okay? And it's totally okay if you are not comfortable or safe, because some people are not in safe situations where their boundaries will be listened to or where they are safe to be heard. And so if clutter needs to act on your behalf, great. You're still getting your needs met. What if that's okay? What if instead of beating yourself up, you say, wow, I have found a way to get my needs met. And one day I hope to meet those needs in a different way. But for today, they're being met. How great is that?
Yeah. So while you were talking about this example of this client of yours, I was thinking, well, the clutter is the clue that you need to set a boundary. And it's okay to say, I don't want to carpool. I don't like carpooling. Sorry. I need my downtime. I need my decompression time. Yeah. We've given people all these different ways of tools of how to set a boundary. I have a policy of not carpooling because I need that mental downtime or whatever. Yeah. But he just he didn't feel he had the right or just to say, I don't want to,
I don't think it ever dawned on him.
Yeah.
I think for
that
a lot
it was
of
an
people,
option.
Yeah, this is a subconscious thing that happens.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people use it for protection, like physical protection, if they've had an assault or several assaults happen, and having a cluttered home makes them feel like they almost have an alarm set, because if someone came into their house, they would trip on the clutter and the person would hear them. And, and they don't, it's not like someone steps out and says, I'm going to set up clutter to serve my purposes, but our subconscious is so smart and finds a way of making this happen. And so sometimes, and this is why I'm on such a mission to have this conversation, it's because when I share this with people, they don't say, oh, wow, how fascinating. Let me think about it. They're like, this is so simple. That's exactly what it is. And they start to show me all the 20 ways in their home their clutter is doing this one pattern. And so once we have the mirror held up and we can say, wow, that's what's really going on, it helps a lot. Like, I had one client whose parents kept, this was someone in their early 20s, and their parents kept kind of violating their privacy. And so they kept their room cluttered so that people couldn't find their stuff. And so I said, hey, you're living in clutter to protect someone else. What if you only cluttered the first 3 feet of the room and everything else stayed clutter free? And the minute that she did that, she didn't need the clutter anymore, because it was like, oh, I can do this instead. And I can find a way to protect the stuff that I need to feel, like my safety is preserved instead. And it just gives us an option to think about things in a new light instead of doing it unconsciously.